Welcome to the Traffic Hackers Podcast, the crossroads of lead generation expertise and business growth savvy. Here we explore the expansive landscape of demand generation, guided by your hosts, Brent Stone and Glen Martin. So get your laptop out and your cell phone ready. It's time to enter the world of the Traffic Hackers.
Welcome back to the Traffic Hackers. It's Brent and Glen here with you again today. And here's the thing. Two episodes ago or so, Glen mentioned how we were going to come back and talk about the OR in Boolean searching. Well, we're here. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to kick it over to him, and he's going to blow your mind with what you can do with free searching on LinkedIn without Sales Navigator. And then if he wants to, he can throw in some tips if you've already got a Sales Navigator account. So, Glen, thanks for being here and being our LinkedIn search expert here. Why don't you just take it away and blow people's minds?
You bet. Well, man, it's always fun to go into some stuff about LinkedIn because I like it a lot. So excited to share with you guys. Now, we talked about and Boolean searches, and we talked about not Boolean searches, and so you guys have probably really dove into that. And if you're like, man, I'm aggressive, you probably Google searched and you figured out some of these things that we're going to talk about today because you care about your business. Well, if you didn't, I've got good news. I'm going to help you understand what this is. So you might say, well, Glenn, what's the difference between an and Boolean search, which is what I call a positive Boolean search, and an or Boolean search, which is kind of also a positive Boolean search? What's the differences in really those two different styles of searches? And I think that's very key to understand because you will use them in very different scenarios. So I'm going to take the and one, for example, and then I'm going to take the or, and I'm going to compare them to each other so you understand what I'm talking about. So let's say you're trying to find a CEO, but you also want that person to be the co-founder of the company or the founder of the company. So what you're looking for with using the and Boolean search is you're going to search CEO and founder or CEO and co-founder. And now you're only going to find profiles that have those two words in the same profile, CEO and founder. So very specific. So it really brings your search down to a very specific group of people. And or Boolean search actually expands your search to combine different audiences. So you want to find CEOs or founders. You don't really care. You want to have either just CEOs or founders. You can work with both. And now what you're going to see is your search is going to get bigger, right? Because you're going to have CEOs that drop in there. So these could be people that don't even own a company, right? But they're CEOs of a big company, or founders, which are actual founders of a company or a service or a product, right? So very, very different. And you're going to see a very different niche of people that you find. A lot broader, a little less niche down, but depending on your audience. So example, let's say you're a coach and you work with fathers. You want to find dads or fathers, right? Because you don't really care what they have on their profile. You want to find either one of those. And again, your search is going to be exactly the same, where you put the main words that you're looking for in quotation marks, and then or will be in capital letters, and then your second search in quotation marks again. And again, you can string these Boolean searches together. You can put and searches together and not. You can put and or, right? So you could have a group, and there's more, there's more that we can go into here. It's definitely, there's a lot with searching on LinkedIn.
Question. Yes. So just to clarify, because I remember on, couple episodes ago, you were talking about the capitalization of the and. Is that hold true for the or?
Always.
Okay. All right. So if I'm listening to this and I'm getting ready to conduct, test different Boolean searches, trying to either do a really narrow down audience with the and search, then I need to make sure I capitalize that. If I'm going to do more of a broader search and use the or, I still need to make sure that's capitalized too. Okay, exactly. Got it.
Just
Thank you.
Put OR
excellent.
Capitalized, and then you're good to go. See, if you don't, LinkedIn doesn't realize that you're trying to do a specific search, and they will actually take it as like one string of words. So to them, you're trying to find people that in their title, it says dad or father, and no one talks like that. You don't typically see profiles where it says husband or dad. No, they're either both or they're one, you know what I mean? Like it's not going to say both. And so you're going to find that the search doesn't work and you're like, now you're mad at me and you're trying to find my address and send me hate mail, and when actually it's just the fact that you didn't capitalize it. And the quotation marks helps because it breaks searches apart. So you quotation mark, capitalize the word, quotation mark, second search, capitalize the next word, quotate. I typically recommend don't string more than 2, maybe 3 Boolean searches together. Otherwise, it starts to break down the search. It doesn't do as good of a job. So 1, very good. 2, very good. 3, 4, you're not gonna be happy. So keep it short and just use creative language, right? If you want to work with attorneys and lawyers and you want it to be attorney and lawyer in the same, now it's going to be very specific. If you want or, where it can be both, you want to use the or. You see where I'm going with this? Like you got to think creatively about your audience. So, obviously for, let's say you're selling a service to financial professionals. Well, a lot of financial professionals use the term financial advisor. Some use insurance, right? You see the difference here because you might want to find insurance and financial because people put different things in their profile. So you got to really get specific. And so if you're doing this and you have no clue who you're actually working with, your Boolean search is going to be ineffective because you don't know, who do I exclude? Who do I add? Who do I try to put in? So I would say go get specific. What's specific titles, keywords, whatever you want to put in there that your audience uses? And hopefully you've already done that because like this is common sense stuff. But if you haven't, this is only going to make you more effective, where it's like, well, if you work with CEOs, you could technically work with like a director or, well, director of what? You got to get specific on that. Right. And there's a lot of ways to break this down. We might talk about titles and stuff like that later, because I think it's important to understand titles of different parts of a company, depending if you're working B2B or B2C or whatever you're trying to do. That's a very interesting topic in and of itself. And so make sure you keep following us because we will talk about that later. I don't know when yet, but that's going to be fun because it'll just be fun and you're going to learn a lot because there's a lot of interesting titles out there that you may not realize that would fit your specific brand. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, there's that, not only that, but then there's also the idea that there's companies that elevate titles. They have more weightier titles for people that don't really have that level of responsibility, and vice versa. And so there's all kinds of strategy when you're doing this stuff on LinkedIn that you have to take into account all these things. We could do probably 2 episodes on just that whole thing. So maybe that's something we'll do later. But hey, this is awesome. Glenn, is there anything else that you want to leave people with when they're thinking about the OR search before we cut it off and move on to the next episode?
Do it. That's anything I'll leave you with. Now go and do this, build your audience. And if you want to say here, this is actually really helpful. If you want to save an audience that you search, you go to all this work and you search it out. And you're like, man, I got to do this, but I'm in the middle of some other stuff and I got to come back, and then LinkedIn refreshes and you're upset. We've all been there. Every single one of us. Do this. When you search it and you've got it exactly dialed in like you want, go to your search bar, copy the full URL and post it in a note somewhere. Then the next time you go inside your browser, just grab that URL, drop it in there, bam. That exact search will come up that you spent 10 minutes putting together, and you're happy, I'm happy, everybody's happy, and you can go and find your audience. So go and do it, and we'll talk to you soon.
That was worth, I mean, the whole episode was awesome, but that was worth so much right there. So that just saves people like hours of their life over the course of like a quarter trying to do these prospecting searches. Amen. So, hey, with that, thank you for listening in to the Traffic Hackers. I'm Brent.
And I'm Glen.
This is Glenn, and he's Glenn, our LinkedIn expert, and we will see you all here very soon.
Cheers.